technical technicalities really quick because we have a special show today. We have a couple of guests joining us today. Okay, looks like you guys can hear me. My guest, nod your head. Nobody else can see you, but I can see you. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Okay, awesome. All right, guys. Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in today. Today we have two special guests that will be joining the live. This is the first time I've brought guests on. Usually it's just me sitting here, but it's not any fun if I just do it all the time. So I thought it would be a good idea to bring in some different insights for you. Today we'll be discussing methods to help you cope when you're dealing with a divorce or a custody case. We'll have three different perspectives today. We'll have a legal perspective. That'll come from me. We'll have the medical perspective, and that'll come from Kim Lee-Okonya. And then we'll also have the personal perspective, which will come from Jennifer Banks. And they'll be on the screen in just a minute. Let me introduce myself to you. My name is Attorney Joy Fairell. I'm the managing attorney here at the Fairell firm, where we have a very strong focus on family law litigation. That includes divorce, child support, custody, adoptions, etc. To learn more about us, you can visit us on thefairellfirm.com, FAIRELLFIRM.com. Next up is going to be Kim Lee-Okonya. I'm going to add her to my screen so I can introduce her. Hi, Kim.
Hey, how are you? I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm glad everything is working. Okay, so let me introduce y'all to Kim. She is a psychotherapist and a licensed clinical social worker. She is the founder and owner of Life Begins Here Therapeutic and Counseling Service. She has over 10 years of experience in the field of psychology. She received her bachelor of science degree from Georgia Southern University in psychology with a minor in child and family development from Georgia Southern. And she graduated with her master's in clinical social work from the University of Georgia. And she graduated at the top of her class in both of those programs. So, Kim, I didn't know this, but I knew we were both Georgia Southern alum. But I didn't also know we were both Georgia alums. So I went to Georgia for law school. So we have our degrees from the same place. And our other guest who will be joining us in just a second, she's also Georgia Southern alum. So, okay, I'm going to tap Jennifer in.
Okay.
All right. And our other guest today is Jennifer. The individuals face during this process when you're going through a divorce and a custody case. I believe that it's not only important to have professional opinions like mine and Kim, but it's just as important to hear the personal opinions of those who have firsthand knowledge of this, because so many people in our community seem like they're ashamed or they're embarrassed when they're going through situations like this, when in reality, so many people are going through the same thing. And I think if people understand that it's pretty normal to deal with the feelings that you're going to be facing, people can be more forthcoming about it and get the help that they need. So let's go ahead and get started on our topic. I'm going to pop you down, Jennifer. Or not. Let me see. Okay. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to pop you down too, Kim. I'll pop you back up in a second. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about coping during a divorce or a custody case. So going through a separation or a divorce or a custody battle can be extremely difficult, no matter what the reason is for it. If it's just adultery or because you want to, irreconcilable differences, it can literally turn your entire life upside down. And it makes it difficult to get through each day. Early in my career, my legal career, I had to learn to separate legal issues from mental issues, meaning at one point I would be everything for my client. I'd be the lawyer and the therapist. However, that became a disservice because I'm not a medical professional and I could not properly handle the emotional needs of my clients. Now, if you talk to most lawyers will say, oh my God, I hate family law. Nobody wants to do family law, but I personally love family law. And I think a big reason for that is because I've learned how to give my clients the resources they need. I can give you the legal thing and that's the only thing I can do, but I've learned to let them know that they need additional help. I'm usually the first person someone is telling about their divorce case. I'll get a phone call first thing in the morning, or I may get a message in the middle of the night, and somebody is confiding in me, letting me know, hey, I got served with divorce papers, or hey, I'm filing for divorce, and they haven't even told their closest friends and family. And so they're holding in all these emotions, and it's not healthy. And so that you know you're not alone in the struggle, we're going to talk to Kim first about the medical side of how divorce affects you, your spouse, and your kids mentally. So Kim, I'm going to put you back up here. If you can give us some of your thoughts about the effects of it, and I'll let you have the screen here.
Okay. And definitely to piggyback on what you said, I think I think people feel comfortable with you or people like me, a therapist, when they first get served with divorce papers, or when the thought of divorce comes to their mind, because they're nervous. It's the fear of the unknown. Some people, especially people who have been together for like decades or even not, I mean, your life is about to change, and so people have fear of like judgment. People have fear of like family or friends saying I told you so, and so it's kind of hard to they don't know how to process everything. And so I think they feel safe going to an unbiased, non-judgmental person, like you or anybody really outside of the family or their friends. But definitely, it has a huge effect on our mental health. When we hold all of that stuff in, it can lead to anxiety, can lead to depression, which then in turns affects our sleep, affects our eating. We isolate ourselves from other people. And of course, our friends and family notices when something is different. And even ourselves, we might question, who are we? So it's definitely important, very important to, I think, enlist the help of a professional, a counselor or a therapist to kind of talk to help kind of process what's going on and what your new phase of life is going to look like after divorce.
Right. I agree. And to piggyback off what you said, and you make a good point when you say people are ashamed or they're worried about what their family or friends are going to say. I want to say this to the family and friends who may have somebody going through something, and you probably don't even know it at this point. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be a true friend, if you're going to be that person that's going to be there for somebody, they don't need your judgment. Right. Okay. If you're going through something like this, if they're going through a custody battle, if they're going through a divorce, now is not the time for you to say, I told you so. Or for you to say, oh, well, let me tell you this, or he did this or that. Like that's not the time for it. When people are going through these things, all they need is love and support and nothing else. Nobody needs your opinion at this phase. And it's because of those opinions before they got to this phase, and now people are afraid to reach out to you, to confide in you, and then they internally process that stuff. Then they don't have anybody to turn to, and mental health ends up affecting the litigation through the divorce, through the custody, because if one person is falling apart mentally, right, you're not going to be in a place where you can say, oh, I want this with custody, I want to do this financially, because you have to be in the right position. So for those who may have family or friends going through this, just be mindful that people going through this, whether they've been totally healthy their entire life, this is something new, and all they need from you is love and support. And I encourage you to encourage them to call somebody like Kim to help them with this, and to also make sure they have legal counsel, because most people, when they're going through these type of emotions, when they come to me, they're like, I don't care, I don't want this. And I'm like, hold on now, I'm going to be your voice of reason. Right. Okay, like, you're upset right now, but let me think about tomorrow. I'm going to let you worry about all those emotions. So make sure you get a lawyer that's going to be thinking about the big picture while you're kind of dwelling in your emotions.
Exactly.
Okay, so Kim, on your website, I really loved, and if y'all go there, is Kim Lowe, the therapist. You talk about your love for butterflies and the process of life that a butterfly goes through, like these 5 phases, I think you said. And I was actually very intrigued with that. And I was like, man, I have a new love for the butterfly. And, where people see you in life and where you are, and, can you make it to that phase? So many people say that just like the life of a butterfly, divorce is a process, and it's a grieving process. Can you talk about what would be expected during a divorce case, especially one where children are involved, as far as the medical explanation to the grieving process? And then Jennifer, once she gives her that that opinion. I'm going to ask you about whether or not you agree with those opinions. So I'm going to hop you up on the screen now too. So go ahead, Kim. Talk about divorce and grieving and understanding that process.
Okay, so people typically only think of grieving, traditionally speaking, when we have like lost a loved one in the physical realm. But people don't really understand that the grieving process equates to any type of loss. And when I say loss, I mean loss meaning the person or whatever the case, or the puppy, because I have an example of when I grieved from my puppy.
Me too.
So I'm gonna give that example because I love analogies and examples. I think that's a great way to help people kind of understand. So, but it's just whenever a person, a puppy, or anything is no longer a part of your world as you once knew them. So, I had a puppy. His name is Rondo. Life got really busy. I started working a lot. Work started picking up, and I felt like I was not giving him the attention that he needs. So I made the choice. I found a great family who he's still with today. I still talk to them. They're awesome. But when I gave him to them, I grieved. Like, I still have times when I think about him and I get sad, But that just goes to show that grieving doesn't mean the person doesn't have to not be doing well or not be here on earth anymore. It's just whenever they're not in your life as they once used to be. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is a famous therapist. She identified 5 stages of grief. No matter what type of grief you're going through, most people go through these 5 stages. So the first stage is denial. Like, we're like, okay, no, this is not happening. Like, I'm dreaming. Then we go through anger. So we've accepted what's happened and we're angry about it. Then we go through the bargaining phase. Okay, let's go to counseling. Even though we've been 4 times, let's go one more time. Maybe that'll help it. And then we go through depression. So we've kind of set into the fact like this is happening. And then we go into a phase of depression. So that could look like isolating yourself, not enjoying activities that you once used to do. Your eating habits change, your sleeping habits change. And then we finally get to the stage of acceptance. And whatever that looks like for you, it can be different for everybody. So those 5 stages usually is what I see typically, traditionally, people go through. So again, that's
now let me ask you this, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
If people get through those phases, I actually wrote them down here, and they are so accurate just from what I see. So you said denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. But does everybody get to the acceptance phase?
No, and that's what I was gonna say. You don't have to necessarily go in that order. You can go in different orders. You can stay in one phase for a year. You can stay in one phase for a couple weeks. Like, it varies depending on the individual, and it might take some time to finally get to the acceptance stage. It might take some years. I tell my clients, for however long you was with someone, it takes at least half that time to fully get over them. And of course that varies for everybody, but that's just the typical timeline.
And is that timeline under the care of a professional like yourself, or is that a timeline that you'll get over it just on your own accord?
Well, with a support system. So I won't necessarily say like you need a therapist. Of course, a therapist will help. I advocate therapy for everybody, especially going through this process. But more so if you have a supportive support system, like we talked about before, somebody who you feel you can be vulnerable with, somebody who you feel like is not going to judge you, somebody who you feel like you can take your mask off and just be yourself and talk about these things, then that's usually when we look at the timeline. But if you're alone, you don't have anybody, you're holding everything in, it's probably going to take a lot longer.
Okay, Jennifer, so you heard her talk about the medical side of the 5 phases of grieving you go through with divorce. Do you agree with her position on the personal side? And can you share a little bit with us with your initial feelings of your process, your divorce process when that started, and kind of what you were feeling at that time?
Okay, I'll start with your latter question. I was initially shocked when I got the divorce papers, so I was not physically prepared, nor was I mentally prepared with what I was about to embark on as far as the full divorce process from start to finish. And I will agree with some of the phases that she talked about because they're pretty much spot on. The denial phase, this is not happening to me. he doesn't know what he's talking about. This is just play. He's playing around. So I went through the denial phase, the anger phase, the bargaining. The depression was very real for me. I definitely had a lot of mental anguish that came from the divorce process, because my life, I thought I was very comfortable doing this and that, and now it's about to get flipped upside down, whether I liked it or not. So I definitely sought out my support system, which included my family, church family, pastor, friends, and with the help of a medical professional during my divorce. So those are ways that I got through the divorce process. So I definitely agree with Kim when she made the statement about seeking whoever your divorce team is, or whoever your support system is, making sure you have that in place. And then when Kim talked about the acceptance phase and finally moving on, those are that's ultimately where you want to be. And when I finally got to that phase, I was able to really flourish and fly like the butterfly that she described earlier. So
I agree. Now, so Jennifer, she's a former client of ours, and one thing I always told Jennifer, and you can agree to, I always said, Jennifer, at the end of this, you're gonna have a testimony, you're gonna have a story to tell, and you're gonna just be so blown away by God's mercy that He's shown you through this process. It was just a matter of getting to that point. Now, for you, you had a lot of things start happening at once, in addition to your divorce, and so when it rains, it pours, and so it wasn't for you just the divorce. It just seems like everything else started crashing down around you as well. So how long did you wait to see somebody?
I can't remember the particulars, but I want to say possibly a few months into the process. So is when I sought out professional help, because it took me a long time to get through kind of the denial phase. So, to reach out to folks, it wasn't necessarily my first on my to-do list, so to speak. So, obviously I was still working, so, dealing with a stressful job, dealing with the divorce, and then at the same time I was dealing with the death of my sorority sister. So many things were happening at once, and I said, I can't take it. It was literally too much, and I said something had to go. So that's when I did seek help from a medical professional, and we had a conversation, and she thought that it was best that I take some time off from work. So we were able to go through those steps, and I would.
Right. And I thought that was actually very unique to your case, because I've never had a client other than you in all these years actually use that resource. And so what Jennifer did was, so she's saying to you guys that she had a lot of stressors going on. She had a very stressful job. She was going through a divorce with a very young child, and she had a death of a very close friend. And so she had these three factors, and it's like, what can I do to eliminate one? And she actually sought out human resources with her employer, and you took short-term disability at that time. You took short-term disability, I believe.
Right, so short-term disability, but it's going to vary on a case-by-case basis. So actually what I would recommend is for the employee, if they have it, everybody doesn't have these benefits. So with my employer, which will remain nameless at this time, they actually have the EAP, Employee Assistance Program. And so through that program, you call the hotline to seek out resources such as legal resources or, professional help or counseling. And they direct you to a medical professional who will help you with your situation. It is at that point then we have the discussion about the short-term disability and using those benefits for a leave of absence from work.
And did that time away from work kind of help you just get everything together, having one less thing to worry about?
It sure did. When you're in a stressful job, or when you're in a job in general, it requires a lot of times 110% of you. So I felt that it was best for me to pull out, because I was doing a disservice to my company and to my team if I'm not 100% coming in 110% coming in every day. So it was best for me to make that decision with with the help of the medical professional. So
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. So, Kim, so as you hear from Jennifer, she waited a little bit of time after kind of everything started kind of crashing down. In your medical opinion, at what point should someone seek a medical professional? Is it like when they get served with divorce papers because we know it's about to be something, or is it only if they want to stay married and the other person wants to get a divorce? I mean, what is it?
In my opinion, I think as soon as divorce even crosses your mind, like I feel like seeing a therapist or a counselor is important. Even if it's you that's asking for the divorce, sometimes it's good to just enlist the help of a professional just to assist you with processing those thoughts, excuse me, in a safe space, in regards to like what's about to happen. Or say for Jennifer's case, it sounds like she was caught by surprise with the divorce papers. So even if her ex-husband went to therapy and said to his therapist, hey, I'm about to embark on this process with my wife, and just for him to figure out how he got there, just to process some things. So it really doesn't matter what side you're on when it comes to the divorce. I think enlisting the help of somebody who is unbiased, non-judgmental, who can really, who is invested in you and has your best interest, but not as invested as a family or a close friend, can really help to give you the feedback and allow you that safe space to just get advice, and of course with a professional who has seen it before from different sides or from both sides. So in my opinion, I mean, Jennifer, I see a lot of people that do that when they feel like, okay, it's real. But in my opinion, I think to help not get so deep into depression, not say that it will stop it completely, but as soon as you hear those words, I think that would be
A
good.
good time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anytime we have cases, because it's not just like in Jennifer's case, it's not just Jennifer and her ex-husband. It's Jennifer ex-husband plus child or children.
Right.
So anytime we have, as a lawyer, anytime we have a case that involves a child, that's one of our questions. Our first question is, children or no children? Because if people say children, we already know it's about to be something. It's never an easy task anytime you add children to the mix. So in these cases that involve children, should parents have this discussion with their kids, or should they leave them in the dark?
Well, first I'll say kids are extremely intelligent. I don't think we give them enough credit. Even if your baby is 2 or 3, they know, they can feel the energy. They know when something is changing. So I think no matter the age, the kids should not be kept in the dark. And of course, you talk to them on an age appropriate level, because if your child is used to daddy giving them a bath every night, and then in a couple weeks, daddy is not there, even if that baby is, 1, 2, 3 years old, they know something is different. And so it's important to figure out the best way to talk to your baby, I don't know, saying, okay, daddy is not going to be giving you a bath. And even while he's still there, I think the parents, if they can do it together, I know sometimes divorces are not amicable and that's not able to be done. But if it can, both parents kind of talking to the child and prepping them for the changes that are about to come into that child's life is important. Otherwise, what I see, a lot of kids start to act out, younger kids, and then kids that are like school age, they'll start acting out as well. They'll think it's something that they did. Oh, I didn't eat my vegetables, that's why mommy is leaving. Or I didn't clean up my room, so daddy is mad, and so now he's gone. It's my fault that they're not here anymore. And so keeping them in the dark actually lets their imagination run wild, which creates more problems in the long run than if you just keep them in the loop.
That's an excellent point. And, actually, that's why I'm not a medical professional, I guess. But my daughter, she's almost 5. But if I don't communicate with her, she will come up with her own random explanations for things that are so far left that it doesn't even make sense to me. But I guess in a child's mind, it is important to guide them. Do you recommend therapy for the child?
I definitely do. So what I recommend is, so if the parents know they're about to get a divorce, I think that they both, like I said, should talk to the child together about what's about to happen. And if the family, of course, most divorces is your first time going through it, so enlisting the help of a therapist, a family therapist, to kind of help facilitate that conversation, I would recommend that. So that way, if the child has a question that you don't know how to ask, you have a professional there to kind of help. And I think after the fact, the child should, even if it's just a couple sessions and the child is fine and they're okay, then you can discontinue treatment. But I think it's important, just in case if it's something they're holding back from mommy and daddy. I think it's important for them to have that safe space to be able to kind of process their feelings too, because they definitely are affected as well. And a lot of parents forget about the kids.
Right. It's interesting they forget about them, but they're usually the main contention in a divorce. But they've forgotten about the feelings. Do the children go through the same grief phases that the parents go through? The denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance?
Pretty much, yeah. They're in denial. Daddy's just spending the night at grandma's house or whatever, and then when they find out what's going on, they become angry. Sometimes they get angry at mom or dad or whichever parent that they're primarily with, not understanding why things have changed. And then they too bargain. Well, can daddy just come back this many times, or can mommy come back this many times, or can I go hang out? And whatever way they bargain. And then depression. And depression for a kid might look like acting out in some ways, might start wetting the bed again, regressing in some ways, and then they finally get to a place eventually where they accept it with help and support, of course. But yeah, they will go through the same phases as well.
Okay, so Jennifer, I'm gonna bring you back up. Your son was pretty young during your divorce process. I think he was like 1.
Or something like that. He was not quite 1 when I got when we started the process, but during the process he turned 1. Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any plans, or have you had any discussions with him at this phase? He's 3. No, he's about to be 4 now. So have you had any conversations with him, or how does he react to that?
Absolutely. So obviously Avery was very young when we started the process, so he doesn't remember anything that happened or why or this or that. But just as of last year, we started to kind of talk to him and kind of explain, yes, mommy and daddy do love you very much. Mommy and daddy were married when we had you. It's very elementary conversations. Mommy and daddy live in 2 separate places. So he's still so very young, and there's a lot that we will share with him over time. But I think, having him understand that, yes, this is his normal. Yes, it is okay that mommy and daddy live separately. All he knows is that he has a supportive mom and dad who love him very much. And we continue to show that to him on a day-to-day basis. I mean, and speaking into the daily communication, I actually, and my ex does this as well, his dad, we FaceTime with Avery. So we're always available, reachable, even if he is at the other home. But absolutely, Avery understands that his mom and dad are not in the same place. And at the current moment, he seems to be okay.
Jennifer, you and your ex, you guys have shared custody, which I think is a beautiful thing for a child to have pretty equal parenting time with both parents. As a mother, what can you say to other mothers or fathers out there who don't think that the other parent should have substantial parenting time? Do you see benefits in your son being with both of his parents almost equally?
Absolutely. The early stages of life are very crucial, and it's very important that as long as they're willing and able to have both their mother and father around. And when I mean around and involved, I mean by the actual time that's spent with them. No amount of money or anything in the world can trade the place of the actual time that you're spending with a parent. So, I highly recommend, if you can and you're willing and able to do so, to have the shared custody agreement, whatever that looks like, come up with a plan that works best for you. Even myself, we're making arrangements even now so that we live closer so that it's easier to co-parent our sons. So, decisions are being made, and I would just recommend for anyone going through this to obviously seek legal help and professional help from a mental counselor or therapist of that nature, but to also just come up with a plan so that your custody arrangement works best for your situation.
I agree completely. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. And Kim, I got another question for you, so I'm going to pop you back up. So Kim, some people elect not to get help during the process. Is there a recommendation for post-divorce help that people should get? Maybe they made it through the process, whether it's by the skin of their teeth. Is there something they still need help? Is it possible to need help after it's over?
Most definitely. I mean, because again, you're entering into an unknown territory, a place you haven't been before. Most people, if you have kids, you're living life maybe as a single parent, even though you still co-parent, but now single in your home or wherever you are, and as a divorced person, and so your life is going to look a little bit different than it did a couple months ago. And so being able to process that new space that you're in, I think it's important to get that help to help you get started in this new phase of your life. So I definitely recommend, especially post-divorce, that you get that assistance.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kim. And we're going to get ready to go into some questions. So if you guys have any questions for either of these ladies or myself, go ahead and start writing them below. I see a few are already down here. While people type their questions, Jennifer, do you have any words of encouragement you want to offer people that may have already gone through or are going through this situation? Do you have any words that you just want to offer them?
Absolutely. If anyone is going through this situation, I just want to tell you that, one, you are not alone. There are people around you that love you and that care for you, and when the time is right, please feel free, just to reach out to them and to get your support system together, because it is that support system that's going to get you through this process. You don't know how long or how short the process may be, so it is very important to have that support system very early on in the process. And also, you'll be stronger after you get through the process. It is very trying on your mental health, and it may be very trying on you physically, but again, you will be stronger after the process is over. So just remain faithful and steadfast, and get a great team together, and you'll be fine.
Okay. I'm going to pop a question up here, and I'll let you answer first, Kim, and then if you have any insight, Jennifer, you can answer as well. So the question is, what is the best way to explain to my child who's a teenager that his father and I will never be friends? We're cordial, but I would like a way to explain to him that the relationship is tumultuous beyond repair. I want to be honest, but I don't want to hurt him.
Okay. So Dominique, I think the best way to do that would be to tell your teenager, to tell your child that, hey, we still love you, but sometimes, people fall out of love, but that doesn't change the way that we feel about you. So I think it's important just to let them know that because you and your child's father is no longer on amicable terms, that does not change the way that each of you function with them. I think that's important because a lot of times kids feel like, okay, they're divorced, so that's going to change my relationship with one of the parents, and that's not necessarily the case. So I don't know if you've gone that route with your child yet, but I think just explain to them, yeah, like Dad loves you, I love you, we will always love you and do what we have to do as parents for you. But us being friends doesn't affect our love for you, but that's just something that's not gonna happen for us, and that's okay. So I think that would be like the best thing to do. And if you need help with that, the therapist can also help you talk to your child about it as well, in a safe space.
Yeah, I can piggyback on that, Kim. I think it's important that the child understands that the relationship that they have with mommy and daddy is separate. It's not joint. So
Right.
that's why it's so very important for the child to have a relationship very close with mommy and very close with daddy, because he or she will not understand that the two are no longer together as mother and father. It's a separate piece. So I believe that has to be explained when the child is of appropriate age, and it has to be put in action.
Mm-hmm.
So that I would just piggyback off what Kim said, and I definitely agree that those conversations have to be had.
Okay. All right, let me hop down to another question here. Trying. Do y'all see a question? I'm clicking on it, but it's not showing for some reason. Okay, so the question is, I'm just going to read it. This is from Keely. I have a question. I have an 8-year-old child. I married a woman 3 years ago. What is the cheapest way for her to become a legal parent, or she already because we're married? What steps need to be taken? Keely, this sounds like this is a same-sex relationship where you have the biological child, you have now gotten married. If you are married to a parent that is not the biological parent of the child, no, she does not have any legal rights because you got married. She's a step parent. If your wife wants to have some type of rights to your child, the appropriate steps and the only step she can take is to do a step parent adoption. I have a question here from LeBron. I don't know why my questions aren't showing on the screen right now, but LeBron says, I have full custody of my 14-year-old son. His mother lives in California. Within the last year, she served me with papers to regain custody. Now she doesn't want to go to court anymore. Can I sue her for attorney's fees that I incurred while preparing for court? Yes, LeBron, I would file a motion for attorney's fees in the pending action before the court. Okay. And that is all the questions that I have. So I'm going to put my guests back up here just so we can say goodbye to them. And let's see. Okay. If you need medical professional help, you can reach out to Kim at kimlowthetherapist.com. You can also reach her at 678-237-6540 if you would like to have a session with her. Her website will give you all the information you need to know about her prices for doing that. If you need legal representation, you can contact myself here at the Fairell Firm, and that's farrellfirm.com, and you can schedule a consultation with us, and those consultation rates are $150 for an hour, and the phone number is 678-973-2803. I thank you guys for tuning in today. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for taking time during your workday. Kim, thank you so much for taking time during your day. I really appreciate your insight here, and I'm sure our viewers will really enjoy this once they take the time to watch it all the way through. You guys have a wonderful Thursday and have a great weekend coming up.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.